Hey y'all, it is Friday and it's time for a story. But I wanted to say something before I started this week's story. Last week I told a story and online somebody had said that that story was so corny they thought it might actually be true. And what I wanted to let y'all know is every story I tell is true. And if I ever get a story that I think is getting a little scratchy around the edges, I probably won't tell it. So everything that I'm spitting out here is true. And before we get going into my story, oh, look what I made. It's a Pine Telecaster. Actually, it'd be an Esquire since there's only one pickup here. I call it the Texcaster. This is made from my old license plate, an old Texas plate, and then the headstock. I cut this out to match the headstock of the Tele. And it's pretty tricky. There's some cool features anyway. I just finished her. She's about done. I played it in and got it all set up. But that's not why we're here. This week's story is kind of historical. It's one I wanted to tell just to get out there so that it doesn't get lost and forgotten. It did not happen to me firsthand. It involves Elvis Presley. And I was raised a big Elvis fan. My parents saw him perform live in Vegas. And as my mom put it, this is pre everyone thinking Elvis was on drugs, but she came home and she said in her big beehive hairdo, she said, "I believe that man's on drugs." Because this is one of the shows where he stopped the band like 8 times to talk about things. But I always loved Elvis Presley. In fact, I had a CB radio when I was a kid. My handle was a DQ Dude. And I would sit in my room and broadcast on the CB, and I don't know how I found out that Elvis had died. But I found out he was dead, and I jumped up on that CB, and I went from channel to channel to channel, telling everyone that Elvis Presley was dead. I'm having a revelation here. But the cool, or the, not cool, because it's not cool. I was a big fan. He is the king of rock and roll. But after I did that, as I started switching to like channel 19, channel 14, the channels I hung out on, everybody's talking about Elvis. And then I realized that I was a small kid, and I had spread just this piece of news, and it was so important to everyone that they had to talk about it, which I guess might have something to do with the job I have now, and like this video right here. But anyway, Chip Young is known to guys in Nashville and to record people as a great guitar player. He played on things like Pretty Woman. He was a Chet era guitar player. And after he progressed through that, he worked at record labels and handled artists. And that's how I knew Chip. And one day in Chip's very Nashville office, he told me an Elvis Presley story, which I'm about to share with you, which is true. He said that he was cutting for Elvis, and it was at Graceland. And he said they'd start loading in around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, because that was Elvis's hours. And they would load up or load in, and then they would play and record until Elvis got tired, which would be around 3 or 4 in the morning. Then they'd pack up, hit the road, and do it again until they were done. And he said on this particular night he had set up his acoustics, and there was another guitar player there with him, and he was setting up his guitars, you know, putting on the stands and all that. And I'm going to stop here because I tell this story. People don't know. When I say Red, I assume everyone knows who I'm talking about, but everybody doesn't. Red was part of the Memphis Mafia. And the Memphis Mafia were the guys that ran around with Elvis, because when you're as famous as Elvis, you kind of got to handpick your friends. But Red was a red-headed fellow, and he liked to wear vests. So picture Red with kind of short red hair and maybe a black shirt and a white vest. And the other thing Red's pretty famous for was always carrying a gun, which, you know, if you ran around with Elvis, I think a gun might be a good thing to have for people that might want to do something to Elvis. But so I want you to picture Red is coming down the staircase at Graceland, and he's wearing this white vest, and he's got on a shoulder holster with the 38 snub-nose special in it. And as he's coming down the stairs, Chip said Elvis comes into the room. Now I don't know if Elvis wore that karate outfit all day long, or if he had just got through doing karate. But he said Elvis walks in, and he's wearing his karate outfit. And the two converge. You know, he's coming down the stairs. Here comes Elvis in the living room. And Elvis says, "Red, pull that gun out, man, and I'll snatch it from your hands." And so at this point, Chip knows there could be a problem. So I want you, you're looking at the staircase, and here comes Red, and Elvis has issued this statement of, he's going to take that pistol. Chip turns to the other guitar player and says, I think we better move our guh. He got the word guh out. Now we're going to cut back. Red pulls the 38. Elvis karates him. Whack! And instead of grabbing the gun, he knocks the gun through the air. And right as Chip says, guitars, the gun is just screaming in a nice little arch through the air. Now, on the front of this gun is a barrel and a sight and then a little piece where you eject your shells. But here it is. It's flying through the air. It's in slow motion now. Flying, 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 flying. It's headed right towards Chip's acoustic, and then it sticks right in the back of his guitar. He said it just hung there. And the room's quiet. And Elvis goes and slides the gun out. And in the back of his guitar is the perfect hole of the sight and the barrel and the little ejector piece underneath in the back of his guitar. And I've never seen the guitar. And the story is so incredible that it's really hard to believe it's true. But I trust Chip. Chip wouldn't tell me a story like that if it wasn't true. And then I found out later that this guitar was at the Nashville Country Music Hall of Fame at the museum being displayed with the hole in it from Elvis's pistol escapade. So that concludes my Elvis Presley story for our Friday story. Thank y'all for watching. On my little Jim T's Caddy site, I'm going to have a Jim T story section, and I'll start putting all the stories in there. So one day when you're just sitting around, you can go listen to the stories. That concludes, and I want everyone to have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.